Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people. It is a bookend episode, and I just almost scooped you guys on hearing how good one of the books read this month was. So we had to actually stop
Oh,
ourselves from geeking out so that you guys could hear it first. So
right.
you're
They asked
welcome.
me, and I
Also,
was
I'm
like,
sorry.
well, I do also want to say, if the visuals look funky, it's because I'm on my phone, because it turns out setting up internet during Mercury retrograde is not a great idea. So there's that. It'll be better next episode, I promise. It's just presently not so much.
Oh my gosh. So fun Mercury retrograde thing that just happened. We were looking at a house the other day, like 2 days after Mercury went retrograde. And the
Mhm.
realtor was like, well, you saw that the rates just went up again. And I was like, yeah. And Dan looked at me like as if I'm not following all the details. Hello, I'm a Virgo midheaven, right? With an earth trine. So
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I know they went up this far and they expect to like not lower them again for like maybe the rest of the year, blah, blah, blah. And Dan's just like, where are you getting all this information? Honey, I watched the news. But anyway, the realtor suddenly starts really respecting me because I can speak his language, right? And he said, well, in a couple weeks, it's probably gonna people are probably gonna look for houses again. Right now they're not because they're afraid of the price spikes. But in a couple weeks, they'll look again. And Dan was like, oh, really? I said, yeah, Mercury's gonna go out of retrograde. And Dan looked at me and he was like, oh, right. And it was so cool in front of someone who like we both don't know how they feel about astrology,
Mhm.
for us to just be like, this is normal, and someone else to just be there and like not
Mhm.
for us not to like shield them from it. And I actually later was like, Dan, I really appreciate that we talked about astrology in casual public conversation and you did not like shy away and I didn't have to either. It was awesome.
I
So
was just gonna say, way to be weird out loud. That's
yeah,
amazing. I
which is
love it.
exactly the advice that I got from a reading I got right before Mercury retrograde. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I was like, I'm going to try. And that to me is just unmasking. And I was just like, okay, first of all, Dan, be prepared. This character is who I'm like when I'm unmasked. I'm not sure if you've seen it full time. So I've been working on that.
Well, it's interesting too, because I also think that there's a really strong place for that in society in this point in time. Like all of us who, I'm going to say, believe alternative things is the way that I'm going to put it. We don't have a lot of choice to still stay in the shadows. Like it keeps
Mhm.
getting pushed further and further and further into the forefront. However, because this has been something that could make people disagree with us, or, we're afraid to share it, we feel this obligation or responsibility to protect other people from our beliefs, even though
Mhm.
they're inherently not harmful. It's like protecting their, oh, well, we won't make you have to deal with our belief. And I love that that is shifting because it's so unhealthy for
Yeah.
everybody involved. And it's kind of a symptom of a relatively sick society, I think, in a very strong way, of a place
Mhm.
that claims religious freedom, and yet everyone isn't supposed to talk about anything spiritual or whatever in normal conversation. And I'm not trying to say like to force it on someone, however, that certain religions do that in very
Mhm.
everyday conversation. But just to have like your own casual beliefs and not feel awkward or weird about sharing those with your partner in front of a realtor, like that is
Yeah.
things that should be normal.
Yeah. Well, and it's a choice to have a society that doesn't want you to have a personality out loud. Because that's all it is, right? It's not even we're trying to blend ourselves into an average when we're out in public so that we have the least amount of ability to be judged slash offend whatever's going to happen.
What I will say with that though, it's so weird because in
So Mars
this
and Libra.
country, well, right, well, in this country specifically,
Mhm.
yes, there is this, oh no, fit in, be part of the masses element, which I think comes from the whole assimilation
Mhm.
policies and politics that have happened since basically the birth of this country. It's like, oh, you came here from whatever country you're from. It doesn't matter. You're American now. Figure it out. Now you're
Yeah.
American, and like takes your identity and shifts it almost immediately. So I think that there's some leftover of that, of like, oh, you have to blend in order to be safe. However, America is also so heavy on making sure everyone is loudly themselves in order to be successful.
Yeah.
Like if you're not loudly and constantly overtly larger energetically than everyone around you, people do not see you in as good of a light, if that makes sense, because you are not
Yeah.
being as incredibly extroverted with yourself all the time, which is fucking exhausting. Let's just
Mhm.
start there. That's so
Not
exhausting.
sustainable. Yeah.
It's not sustainable. And also it's just this whole disempowering, like living inside a contradiction situation that we have to sit with all
Mhm.
the time. So be yourself the way you want to be yourself is the moral of that story, I guess. But it's just to that exact thing that you're talking about of
Yeah.
like, we have to assimilate. But also, if we're too much of ourselves, it's bad. But also, if you're not enough of yourself, it's bad. And you have to do it all at the same time. Have fun.
Yeah. And it's frustrating, which is funny because what I was saying under my breath earlier was we went like straight from, hi, welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell to, by the way, in case you didn't know it, Mars is now in Libra and we're going to spew it all over the place. Like we did
You know,
such a good job embodying that right off the
fun.
bat.
Go on.
Yeah. So that was not what we had planned on going into, but that's one of the
No.
beauties of this podcast is like we can just go with what needs to be said, even if we didn't know it needed to be said.
Right.
So if you are
On,
also feeling that way, oh, go ahead, Em.
no, I was just going to say, on
Okay.
that note, how is
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde going for you so far? Let's do a
Yeah.
little recap.
So Mercury retrograde, I said this earlier on a different conversation I was having, but it's been like it's a tale of two Mercuries right now, which Mercury, of course, loves. But you have the Mercury in domicile, in exaltation, having all the resources and no one to tell it what to do and being chaotic about it. But if you've been waiting for a change and you're ready for things to get like uprooted and like to till the soil a little bit, things have been going really well. Like I've had some really awesome breakthroughs that I've been waiting for months.
Yeah.
And my website broke and like all this other stuff is happening. I'm not saying Mercury is not retrograding, but I am saying that there are some things finally clicking into place that I'm very excited for. So every time something breaks, I'm like, it's okay, I'm fixing it for the goals, I'm fixing it for the thing that I'm excited about. And it's so far we're like not even a weekend. By the time you hear this or watch this, we'll be a weekend. I'm not raging too much yet.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that I won't, especially now that Mars has gone into Libra. So there's going to be a lot of like, I don't want to have to play by your rules. I don't want to like try and make me kind of energy. Yeah. So that and the fact that like, as we're recording this evening on the 28th of August, Uranus is going to retrograde. By the end of the week, we have like, this is the coolest thing. And I say cool as in like, that's interesting. So on the 28th, we have Uranus going retrograde. And my little thing has all these little warnings of like, warning, that's really close to stuff for you. I know. But then we have the full moon on Wednesday. So halfway through the week, we have a full moon in Pisces, which we're going to talk about a little bit, I think. But then there's really nothing until Venus goes direct on Sunday. And then the next thing after that is, I have to go over here, is Jupiter going retrograde, trine Mercury again. Mercury is just talking to everybody as they station right now, which I find very curious as well. And then really just to round it out and finish it off, we do have Mercury Cazimi on the 6th, which shows that we are almost halfway through already. Yay. So,
Yeah. It's a very interesting retrograde because I will say it does have a lot of energy, and I do think a lot of people are having breakthroughs and actions happening and changes happening. I will say though, change is inherently chaotic. Like there's never a change where you're just like, wow, I feel so good. That was just so smooth and everything went perfect and I have no emotions other than happy ones. Like that's not how change works. It's an inherent chaotic energy of shaking. And moving and releasing and some emotions here and some emotions there and ping pong back and forth. And that's what it is to be human. But that energy, once it's so mercurial that all of this change is coming up and these bursts of energy are coming forth for everybody. And the fact that it's happening in retrograde is nice. I appreciate it. It's been annoying, but it's been good, is what I will say for my Mercury retrograde. Like,
yeah.
It's the things that have not worked. Like I told everyone, I was like, communication systems on the last episode are going to go down, and I still don't have internet. Look at that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That tracks. I also had to get my car jump started twice in a matter of 3 hours. That was fun. Had to call AAA 2 times. They did replace the battery the second time, though it shouldn't have needed to be replaced, but it was already messed up. So they just fixed it that way. So there's been weird things like that that have come up. Also, me forgetting things I need to bring seems to be a theme for this Mercury retrograde, which is interesting because I don't usually forget anything ever. I'm very intense about that.
Yeah.
Apparently not right now. So there's the two. The one other thing I will say is a lot, I can see this energy personally, but also I've seen this a lot with people, is everyone is tired, like very, very
Mhm.
physically tired. Just which is already like, it's very much showing a Mercury sort of pull, if everyone's just like, oh, like I
Yeah.
just need to rest a little bit.
Yep.
While all this change is happening, so no one gets to. Isn't that fun? So
Mhm.
that's the other thing that I've seen kind of coming forward. So I'm excited to hear that there's a little bit of a break after the moon. So we have a little bit of time to process all of this stuff. Because I really think um, the moon is going to be an emotional one. And it's going to be, it's, if you took the moon energy that you feel on a usual full moon and you took a magnifying glass and you put it over it, and then you were the ant under the magnifying glass through the moonlight, that's what it looks like to me. Moonburn.
Gotcha. Moonburn. Ah. So
Not in a bad way, because like that full moon energy is not bad energy, but it's just going to be very whoa,
yeah, very
focused in.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah. Moon
Um,
surgery. Let's put it that
it's
way.
I love that you said that because it's conjunct Saturn. So
Oh, see, moon surgery.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like laser surgery from
Yeah.
Saturn. Yeah, that's interesting. Because we do have the moon when it perfects, it's going to be at 7 degrees and Saturn's currently at 3 degrees, but that's still close, especially for the moon.
Mhm.
And so, sorry, like I have a weird gurgle I'm trying to hold back. There we go. Anyway, so so we've got the moon conjunct Saturn in Pisces. Now, the moon in Pisces would normally be like, whoa, ooh, ah, dreamy. But Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn has been in Pisces asking us to like kind of give the why to the what we believe in. And I think that that's going to be a big thing that we really kind of ground in during this moon is like, wow, I have all of these either beliefs that make me afraid or that I don't know what to do with. And it's like, well, okay, then ask yourself why you believe it. How is it supportive? Is it supportive? How are you taking this thing and not anchoring it into a place where it does support you or it has somewhere to go? Also, conversely, because it is the moon, I'm also wondering, like, where are we putting our feelings? And are we acknowledging them in a, again, supportive way, really bringing in that Saturn? Like, can I give voice to the reason, or can I give reason to the emotion so that I know how to identify it and what to do with it? Or am I simply running away? I
Mhm.
think Saturn's going to hold us accountable for things that we've been running away from. It is a full moon, so we get some clarity on things. And in that sense, it's going to be like, I've been feeling this way lately. I can finally express it because Mercury is opposite in retrograde, kind of saying, wow, these things that I didn't have words for before, because they're on my surface a little bit more right now, I have words for them. And Mars and Libra might have words for other people because of that. So you got to be careful about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. To me, it looks like a little bit like the moon is going to steam cook you. Like if you were in a steamer,
Like you're a little dumpling.
like you're a little dumpling. But basically what that does is it's a recharging, right? Like it's a charging, but it's making you soft. So
Mm-hmm.
you're like absorbing a lot of energy, but it's going to make you soft and feely and emotional and like releasing a lot of stuff. When someone cuts open your little dumpling, you're going to go poof. And that's what it feels like.
So you're about to see what's in the dumpling.
I'm like, how do I describe the way they're showing me this energy? That's the best that I got.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking
Yeah.
about the Pixar short film Bao.
Yes.
If you haven't
Like
seen
that.
it, I think it's available everywhere or somewhere.
Yeah. It's on
Definitely
Disney
worth a
Plus for
watch.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Hmm.
that expresses everything we've been talking about. Like, how are you seeing something in a certain way, and is it still that way? And how are you expressing your feelings, or are you avoiding them and projecting? And yeah.
I will say it is I do think a lot of hidden things are going to come to light with this full moon. I think a lot of hidden things. And for you, hidden things might be your lost car keys. Fantastic. Good for you. Or it might be, or
That
it might
implies
be,
it's not good for somebody else. What happens next?
right? Or it might be the like, oh, this, feeling I haven't been looking at forever is now going to come to light, and I actually need to process that, or this experience that I had that I didn't really want to think about, I now feel confident and strong enough to actually think about and process through. So it is everything is bathed in moonlight. You get to see everything in all of their sides and all of their shapes, and even the steamy insides of the dumpling. And I think that's cool. So when I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay. I do want to touch on this though, because you did say something really interesting about this before we hopped on, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, and I think a lot of New Age community talks about it like it's a big deal. It's a blue moon, and that's fine.
And that's nice. Yeah, so it is a blue moon, and by definition, a blue moon is the second full moon in one calendar month. Now, I was saying before we jumped on that my mom, who loves to support me in every way she knows how, was messaging me at the beginning of August being like, there's a blue moon, and I'm telling my friends that you're an astrologer and there's this blue moon happening, and they want to know what that means astrologically. And I was like, haha, nothing, because their calendars were lunar.
So
the
Gregorian calendar is arbitrary.
Yeah. So what that means is, because the calendar was lunar, is at a new moon, you would have had a new month until the next new moon. So there would have been, by definition, one full moon in between, and then the new moon starts a new month. So you couldn't have more than one, to my knowledge. Astrologically, it's not something that was unique for them, because they just simply didn't have calendars that allowed for that. They actually took all the excess hours of the year and threw them into like a 5-day period at the end of the calendar year, and made it like this time between time where the one year dies and the other one comes in, and it's very chaotic. At one point they worshipped it like a really good thing. At another era, they like all hid in their homes, and they were like, nah. And in astrology, if you look at some perfections, my one friend Gabe Rosas actually spoke at NORWAC this year and brought in these intercalendary days, is what they were called. Intercalendary, one of those. Intercalary, I don't know. It's one of the things that's like days that are between calendars. So that works. But you have that 5 days before your birthday too, which is why the birth week ends up feeling so interesting, because your energy is like letting the old kind of fizzle out, and then saying, I can feel the anticipation of this new version of me coming in before your solar return. So that's the astrology I can offer on that, but it's actually just describing a whole different calendar.
Yeah. What is cool though is it is also the moon that is closest to Earth this year,
which is called apogee.
Yeah. Also aids in the steam cooking of you, so it's not fun. The energy is closer. It's less distance between you and whatever the moon is offering. So there's an element of that coming in.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. I'm stoked on it. I think it's gonna be great. I think we're gonna see some very public meltdowns though, from like political figures, etc., on this full moon, and it's gonna be very interesting. It's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes down. So
I've been loving that clearly politics is not using astrology lately. Because I'm just watching and I'm like, you're going to hold a debate then? Like, you're going to do that when?
Right.
But it's just been, again, one of the great things about astrology is the predictability of it. So if you know it, you're like, the debate tonight, stay up and watch it because it's going to be chaotic, or just know there's not technically going to be a winner. So just wait until the headlines the next day.
Chaotic kind of was the word.
Yeah. I did catch, because I don't stay up that late. I think that's weird to hold a TV thing that's like important for the whole nation at a time where people, it's super late for me. It was like 6 p.m. for you guys, I guess. But I was just like, I can't stay up that late. That's super late for me. So Dan stayed up for some of it, but then the next day I watched all the recap, and he was as expected.
I was like, and it gave you a stomach ache. Yeah, very interesting. One thing that was weird, a very personal thing that was happening, is the president was in my town this week for a whole week.
Currently, right?
Yeah. Biden was in my town for a whole week. My town has 20,000 people in it. It has no people. We are tiny. We are a tiny little town. There is one road that goes through the town. And every time he went out to dinner, guess what road you couldn't drive on?
Oh,
that road. He went to Sprouts one night, and they had to close down that whole area. We love Sprouts. Krista and I are big Sprouts fans. They're a restaurant here. It's all organic and vegetarian, and they have juices. It's fabulous. But but yeah, he went to Sprouts one night, so that whole area was closed, and just a bunch of different things. It was really funny, and I was like, well, this is a very odd chaos caused by politics that I predicted, but didn't realize it would happen so personally to me.
Not on my doorstep, Kay. Oh my gosh. So you're telling me next time I come to see you next month for the Forgotten Storytellers Retreat,
next month,
we'll go to Sprouts and I'm going to see a, visited by President Biden thing.
Probably.
Because
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. It's very interesting. We had a lot of jets flying over, lots of surveillance discs put up around town.
As you would.
I know. Big satellite things everywhere. It was just funny. Speaking of Forgotten Storytellers, though, we're accepting pitches, you guys.
Yeah, and we've already gotten quite a few really good ones. We're excited we'll probably be starting interviews by the time you hear this. In a few days, we'll probably be starting interviews. They will happen throughout September. The program will start in November, very early November. And then we'll be writing stories and doing really cool things. And I'm very excited about it. Our current cohort is doing amazing. They are magical, wonderful people. And that's the best part about it is you're not doing it alone. So we get to actually hang out with them in person next month. And I'm so excited because they're all so great. Yeah,
they're so amazing. And everyone becomes such good friends. And it's so beautiful to see the connections. Like, it was really cool on the most recent Ireland trip. There were I think 3 different cohorts. People from 3 different cohorts all becoming even more friends. And it was just like a really cool blending experience of all of that, which it was so appreciated. But yeah, I'm so excited for this next cohort too, especially because with the retreat for this next cohort, there's kind of like special energy going on. That's all I'm going to say about it. But it's really cool. You should pitch us. And what we mean by pitch is if you have an idea for a fiction book, pitch us. You don't have to be any further than the idea stage. That's all we want.
Yeah.
The idea stage and what would you like it to do in the world? That's it. That's all it is on our website. So forgottenstorytellers.com or ninthhousepub.com. You can go ahead and submit that pitch. And it's the time to take a chance on yourself. I really think that at this point in time in our kind of society, everyone is shifting their careers and their dreams and things that they want. And we're not saying quit your job and pitch to Forgotten Storytellers, but what we are saying is this is a perfect thing to do with this next version of you that you're ushering in, because it is a way of investing in you and investing in your future and investing in your creativity in a way you may have always dreamed of. And so we appreciate that and we appreciate you. So yeah, you should pitch it. It's really fun. We had such a good time. All the books are incredible that come out of this program, and we're so thankful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's fiction stuff that makes an actual tangible impact. And it's just a really great way to change and heal the world in a big way. And you get to be a part of that with your book that you're channeling in. And we get to help you be confident in that, learn how to talk about it, learn how to write it in ways that maybe you haven't thought about before. We talk about publishing, all that stuff. So we have a really good time. Plus it comes with a built-in amazing friend group.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like 50% spiritual program, 50% book writing program, 100% fun.
Yes, 1000% fun. But speaking of books, it is a bookend episode this week.
It is a bookend episode. What have you read?
Okay, so I've had a prolific month.
Good for you.
I know. Like every once in a while, I just buzz through them. So this month, I was really interested in researching how people are representing non-binary people as main characters in fiction. Because you find a lot of side characters and stuff like that. But I acknowledge that using they, them for a singular person when you might also be talking about someone else could get pretty weird. So I wanted to see how other people were doing it. So I read The Wicked Bargain by Gabe Cole Novoa, and I really enjoyed it. It's basically pirates meet magic meet like there's a chaotic demon frenemy situation thing. And it's LGBTQ+. It's amazing. The main character is non-binary, and it's really, really cool. They're a really good, well-written character. It's also because what I really liked, and I think you'd like about this too, is the end of the book talks about, there's a lot of, I think they called it I'm just going to go with Spanish culture. If anybody's read the book, please feel free to educate me in the comments on if there's a better way to refer to it. But basically, they were talking about like, some people like to say that pirates, when they encountered a ship that had slaves on it, they would liberate the slaves and make them part of the crew and whatever. And I chose to incorporate that in the history of my book, but I do need to acknowledge that wasn't always the case. So they really went into like, sometimes there was a mix of Spanish and English, and I listened to it on the audiobook. So I was like testing my Spanish at the same time. And when I got to read it, I got to like read as though it was normal. Like it was super fun. I really appreciated that blend, but also the fact that they were like, here's what the actual history was. Here's how I respected the actual history. Here's where I made some edits of history for my book, but I'm not going to tell you that history was this way. So I really, again, appreciated the honesty, the integrity, and the
cool.
idealism that they kind of gave to it. So that
I
was,
appreciate that.
yeah, that was a wicked bargain. It's probably going to end up on my bookshelves. Then I read In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens, which is also pirates and stuff.
Piratey.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, this is a good like segue from that, because I was still in the good feels of it. Also a very good feel. I really like F.T. Lukens as a writer. I think F.T. Lukens handles things in a really great way politically, makes things feel normalized. I've always felt really cozy reading their books, but also just really appreciated the stories and how well they handle things. Conversely, after that, the book I mentioned last week that my Braucherei lineage brought up was published in 2019. It's called The Cunning Man by DJ Butler and Aaron Michael Ritchie. I'm reading that, and it's like early 1900s Utah coal mine town, folk magic, Braucherei, literally centric. And so I'm reading how this person is portraying my lineage folk magic in like as a, I have a bloodstone, I can tell when someone's lying, and how they're portraying that as this very practical religious thing, where it's because Braucherei is a Christian mysticism. And in fact, the main character in this case is Mormon, which is not where the tradition is rooted, of course, in Pennsylvania Dutch, but the setting is in Utah. So it's, that's where it is for this. And I'm finding it very believable, which is nice. Like I really believe this person did good research. It was recommended highly by other people in the line that I'm in. It's certainly not as warm and fuzzy, but it is really interesting to read the normalized lifestyle of a folk magic practitioner and healer. So that's been fun. And that's the fiction I've read this month. I've been doing research for my Astromagia talk, which is going to be like how to interpret traditional astrology grimoires and manuals so that you don't get caught in little traps and things. And so one of the things I was called to in Ireland is this book called, also check out my amazing bookmark now with the highlighters.
Oh, that's nifty.
Yeah, it's called Portable Magic by Emma Smith, and it's literally the book, like the actual book, not necessarily the contents, but the formatting and the way a book is presented. And the chapter I'm on right now is literally talismanic books, which is kind of what we do in Forgotten Storytellers, but also it happens unconsciously with all books. So I'm getting some really good quotes in there for my talk, which is going to be in November. And then in the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom Traditional Source Book Club, we are reading the Elizabethan World Picture, which is a really great introduction into how to think about the world in a magical way every day, like it's normal. So it's what I had to read when I started my astrological magic work, and it really helped me bridge that gap. So I'm starting our Patreon group on that. You can still join. It's actually the September read. So if you're interested, we are starting there. It's super thin. It's very easy to read. It's actually more like English class in college, how to read Shakespeare than you would expect. But that's the point, because that's kind of how they thought about the world back then too. So it used to be normal.
That's so cool. I love that. What a great pick for your first book club pick. No, don't apologize for being prolific. That's ridiculous.
Oh, but Em, what did you read?
So I was far less prolific, but what I will say, I was moving. I was doing a few things. So I read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross.
This is the one that we were talking about before we jumped on.
It is. First of all, she's an amazing, amazing writer. This book was written so well and so beautifully and lyrically, and it's okay. How can I describe it? Basically, two people who are coworkers are writing notes to each other without knowing it and falling for each other without knowing it, while also being rivals at work in the workplace because of the structure in which they are coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
It's really well done. It's super emotional. If you have any sort of trauma around family stuff, either mostly like mom stuff or like sibling stuff, it's going to be really, really nice. It's a really cool picture for you. And it'll kind of, you know, if you were the kid that had to was forced to grow up and take care of everybody, it's going to be, you'll feel really validated through it. It is set against, it's in a magical world where the gods are at war. And it
As
is,
they do.
it is very World War I coded. As far as the gods at war, not like the political structures in place, but the type of warfare. Like at one point there's trenches and there's whatever, but they're trenches with mythical beasts coming to attack kind of situation. So there's like, yeah. But it's also very, I think 1920s, maybe 1910s vibes in this very fantasy world. I loved it. It was fabulous. I thought it was a standalone. It's not a standalone, and it rips your heart out on the last 3 pages. And you are a broken shell of a person for the next 3 hours because the next book doesn't come out till December. So,
but at least it's only December.
Yeah. There's that, and there is my warning to you. Good,
well,
but you'll feel the feelings.
It is on my TBR with a warning now. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. I do think you should read it now because I think it is worth having the anticipation of the next book. Sometimes you read the first book and you're like, God, I really wish I hadn't read it now. I wish I could have immediately jumped to the next one because I'm not going to want to read the next one now when it comes out. Like I'm not that invested anymore. This is not that. I will be reading the next one when it comes out.
That is so good to hear, because so often you're like, meh. Like that's the other one that's like that for me is going to be the next, what was it, Emily Wilde book. Whenever that comes out, I will be right there.
Bated breath.
Yeah, I think I've already got it pre-ordered or something.
Me too. I'm so excited. I can't wait for that one.
That's going to be on the shelf before it even needs to get in my Kindle. So
what I will also say with Divine Rivals, and I really appreciate this bit of it, they truly do make the gods morally gray, which they are.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And the one that you can tell they want to make you hate, you know, kind of thing, or the society's trying to make you hate. By the end of it, you're like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Do I agree with the bad guy again?
There's some very interesting things at play and energies at play there. Anyway, so I appreciated that, especially someone who channels deities on a daily basis. I was like, hey, this is good. This even for deities that air quotes you made up, you know, ones that we don't have in our canon here. It was cool. Anyway, so there's that. Divine Rivals, brutal. Then my darling, amazing husband was like, we should read a book together on our travels through Ireland. And I said, that's great. I was going to read all these cozy standalones I have waiting in my library, and I was so excited to read them. But what if we're going to read something, maybe we should read a series. So I have started The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is not cozy. It's also a 42-hour long audiobook. It is 42 hours long. I would show you, I'm on my phone here. I think I've listened to 10 or 12 hours of it so far, and I'm 31% done. So just to keep that in perspective, however, it is Sanderson, so it's fabulous. It's just, he's so good. He's so good. I have not ever read a fantasy world outside of Sanderson. I'll say outside of Sanderson because this is just what he does. Because he did it in the Tress in the Emerald Sea. He did it in Mistborn, Era 1 and Era 2. And now I'm on this series from him. That is so deeply immersive in the way that every element of this fantasy world is fantastic. It is not like even their horses are not normal horses that we would have here. Like every single element, the way the plants grow is unique. The way the weather is unique. The way the power systems work are unique. The way the towns are built are like every element of it is beautifully constructed into a holistic vision. But it's complicated. I'm not going to say it's not complicated, but it makes sense at the same time, and you really get a picture of it, which is pretty spectacular. One thing I'll also say that Sanderson does really well, because he builds these super complex fantasy worlds. However, he reiterates things throughout the book in an explanatory way. So he doesn't tell you it once and assume you understood. Like in Mistborn with allomancy, like there's 12 different metals basically, and he repeatedly says, you know, they did a pewter lift or a bronze pull or whatever, so you like understand what the metal does. He continually does that throughout the entirety of the series, and this is the same thing in this book as well, and same thing in Tress and the Emerald Sea that I've read of his as well. It's very, very much like, oh, okay, oh no, do I need to go back and re-listen to that piece? No, you don't need to know exactly how Stormlight works. He's going to explain it again, and he does, and that is really, really helpful in a fantasy book. So far, I really like it. It is multiple point of views. I think 6 POV. There's a lot of POV.
What
but
was
it's
his
easy to
outlines
follow.
look like?
Him and Oda, who writes One Piece, I swear to God, they're just in a room with all the red line connecting to different places all around. Like they have to like do like a laser dance to like get out of the room, because there is no way. Like no, it's so much. But it's really good so far. So I'm really excited about it. And I know that it is the favorite for most people of his work, is this series. And I'm excited to see if it is mine too. I really, really, really love Mistborn. I love Mistborn with all of my heart. So it's hard pressed if it's going to be my favorite of his work. It'd be a hard pressed situation there. But anyway, so not as prolific, but that's because I'm in a 42-hour long audiobook journey.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll check in with you next month and see what chapter you're on. Because it's one of those, like, and that's totally okay. Sometimes books are worth that.
Yeah, and so far it is. And honestly, as a writer, when you read people who are better writers than you, because he's a better writer than me, I will say that openly. He's absolutely a better writer than I am. It makes you a better writer. Even reading awful writing makes you a better writer. In general, reading makes you a better writer, but especially this, I will sit there and just be like, oh yeah, exactly. Okay, I could explain it like this. And like, it's like getting educated in being a good author while really enjoying a reading experience. And I just highly appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
Yeah. Weston also started reading it though, and he was like, this is 100% a book I'm going to have to reread, and I'm not upset about having to reread it, but I'm going to reread it. And I was like, I support that decision.
That's
because
awesome.
it's a lot. It's good, but it's a lot. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. Other than that, I've been moving. uh, that's
Which
all.
again, that's a lot to do. Yeah. I'm still so glad you got the move kind of solidified before the retrograde hit. That's such great timing.
I know. We are building some furniture in here that we need to get built before we can put away most of our house, if that makes sense. So we ordered a bunch of furniture and stuff, and now we have to like build it. It's here, it's just in boxes, because each project is like a 5-hour project. We only have so much time. So we have to build a bunch of furniture, and then we have to finish cleaning out our other house. And then we can really get in on putting all of this away and feeling homey. And yeah, so we're really close. We're really, really close. Yeah. So very exciting. Awesome. Well, anything else you want to touch on before we end out?
No, I mean, I'm interested to hear anybody that's reading a book that they're excited about. Let us know if you have any suggestions based on what you hear that we typically read. We would love to know what makes you excited. What do you love in books? What makes you like pick a book and put it on your shelf kind of thing?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I fully agree. Please share your recommendations with us. And our patrons, by all means, share your recommendations as well. We're also going to be posting another poll for episode topics, because we got some really good ones on the list. So if you want to join the Patreon and take some voting time on that, we would appreciate that and hear your opinions, because we love hearing what you guys have to say. So please share with us any and all recommendations for books or what you're reading. We are all fully supportive of that. Also, come to Italy with us.
Oh yeah, about that.
So you should come to Italy with us.
Yeah.
I get more excited for this trip by the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even like, I'm not being facetious or just being like, I'm talking this up. Like I genuinely, Wes and I keep looking at each other and being like, oh, and then we get to show them this in Italy. And then we get to talk to that ghost there. And we get to
Mm-hmm.
check in back in on how far they've gotten on this thing. And like, it's just, I'm so excited for those that are going to go on this journey with us, because truly it's going to be a journey. And the more we do these trips, I know the more impactful they'll be, and they're life-changing. Also, the amount of value you get
Mm-hmm.
for the dollar amount is
Yeah.
absolutely mind-boggling. Like I was doing math on going somewhere else just individually at some point in the next coming years, but just to like figure it out, like, oh, I really want to go see this. And I was like doing the math and I was like, oh my God, to go do what this trip covers on your
Mm-hmm.
own out of pocket anywhere, it would be astronomically more expensive. And you wouldn't get the spiritual component. You wouldn't have a guide with you the whole time. You wouldn't get like the understanding. You wouldn't get kind of like easy access to all
You
these
wouldn't
things.
have
You
the
have to,
quality of hotels.
oh my gosh,
That's
yeah,
important to
definitely
me.
wouldn't have the
Sorry.
quality of hotels. No, they're
Yeah.
awesome. They're so, so good. We were even talking about like Ireland felt like luxury, like
Mm-hmm.
super luxury hotels. We were like, well then,
Yeah.
okay. And so just if you've ever wanted to travel to Italy, if you ever wanted to go to Italy, and you can extend your trip too, you can do stuff on
Mm-hmm.
your own before or after, which is also super fun. But truly, if the bang for the buck is just mind-boggling, because I didn't want to just talk out my ass about that. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I didn't want to be like, it's so good, but like I actually sat down and did the math, and I was like, whoa, it is
Mm-hmm.
so good, um, to to travel this way. So anyway, that's all to say. Come up to Italy with us. We're gonna
Yeah.
have so much fun. We're gonna eat
Yeah.
yummy food. We're gonna do magic. We're gonna explore and we're gonna rest,
Mm-hmm.
and heal as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
the other benefit. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, happy full moon week.
Mhm.
We're getting there. You're almost halfway through Mercury retrograde. Hold on with those little white knuckles, and we hope that you take all this energy and you
Go make
go
some
make
magic.
some magic. I
It's
honestly have
Mercury
no idea
retrograde.
about that
Yeah.
one. I think it was beautifully spectacular. I think.
I think it was a beautiful mess.